Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Prince Albert at 5 event. This event was created in collaboration with our Prince Albert Young Professionals, and our intent is to connect, inspire, and educate others about our community leaders. Thank you to our sponsors, PA Now and the Rock and Iron Clubhouse. Prior to COVID, that would have been where we met, and we hope that once we're able to gather again, we will be back in that location. My name is Elise Hildebrandt, and I will be your host for tonight. And our guest is Lyle Karasuik. Welcome, Lyle. We're going to talk a little bit about your story as a paramedic and how things have changed and all the rest of the glory that goes with it. So,
welcome. Thanks, Elise. First of all, thanks very much to the Chamber for allowing me to represent Parkland Ambulance and be with you for a little bit tonight. Just for our viewers that are tuning in to us, I'm going to step away at the top, close to the top of the hour, and we're going to introduce one of our other paramedics, a good friend of mine, Sheldon Hirschfeld. He's one of our community paramedics. So I'm just going to set that stage up and let Sheldon share a little bit about his portfolio there, and then I'll come back on for a little bit if there's any questions and answers sort of later into the thing. But again, thanks very much, Elise. It's a pleasure to join everyone and you. And as we did a test run of this, as I'm sure most people will understand that any good host like Elise will ask a guest to do a test run. Well, we were supposed to do what would we say? Oh, maybe 10, 15 minutes?
Roughly 3 to 5.
Yeah, exactly. 3 to 5, and then 45 minutes to an hour later, we were still visiting. So I told Elise, everyone, to keep me on track. So if she cuts me off, it's not because she's being rude, because she definitely is not. We learned from our test run that I'll just go down a rabbit hole and another rabbit hole, and we'll just keep talking.
I thought it was because we were both such wallflowers. We hardly knew what to say, and we spent so much time.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about everything and got into things that I'm sure we probably didn't want to talk about, but we did. But that was fun. It's all right. That's what this is all about. To help people understand a little bit about our organization, a little bit about the Chamber and the community. And I know that you and I talked a little bit. Look at this. I'm already talking away, just monopolizing the conversation, but that's okay.
I'm going to pull you back here in a minute. It's all good.
It's like we talked about. Who'd have thought that, a year ago, we'd be sitting in, our respective homes. I'm sure if you pulled back the banner and me unblurred the screen, folks would see us at home, doing these virtual things and reaching out to the audience, hopefully lots of local folks, but certainly people who just tune into the Chamber channel wherever they are. So welcome this evening.
Welcome. All right, so we're going to start this with, I believe you told me when we did a pre-interview, July the 1st?
July the 1st is my personal anniversary date, correct.
And how long have you been with Parkland Ambulance?
I will start on July the 1st, 34 years as a paramedic. And so I'm American trained. I'm not actually a Canadian graduate of a Canadian school. I am in a way, but my initial training was in the US. So, yep.
Ooh, well, we're very thankful you've dropped the y'all and any other drawl that might come from down there.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me a little bit. How did you get to be a paramedic? What was it like when you started soon to be
34 years ago? As you know, any of our long-serving business community would probably say the same thing. Things are not the way they were then. I really grew up in a family business. Many of our long-standing citizens of the city would recognize my name from our family business. We used to have a grocery store on 10th Street West, just down from what used to be the CKBI, then CTV building, which is now really a vacant lot. I grew up in a family business there. And, just like anything else, a career in the family business probably was going to be it. But of course, the economics of that time, and that's now cheapers, 37, 38 years ago already. Good gosh, it seems like an eternity. When we sort of, for those economic reasons of the time, decided that the business needed to be, wound down. And I started with then, which now is the big yellow brick building known as the SAS Polytech Prince Albert campus, then the Northern Institute of Technology. So that really dates me. I started over there, and then had met a good friend of mine who was doing a presentation through schools and Lo and behold, we popped in for coffee because he was working at Parkland Ambulance, and met Barry Duchek, our president of our organization. And Barry says, "Oh, why don't you come work for me? I could always use somebody casual. It's not that hard. Don't worry about it." And way back then, I mean, we now are governed, Elise, by a professional body, self-regulating profession, which I'm happy to have had a part in creating. But we sat down, and way back then, you needed first aid and you could drive. And in those days, you really could drive quite fast. And because honestly, let's look at it. I've been at this now 34 years, and so really, care in a paramedic world, as we know it then, was pretty rudimentary. I mean, we had some really basic equipment, and our goal was to get you from point A to point B as quick as we could. Really, because we didn't have much training. When we needed to take somebody along for expertise, I remember way back in those days, we employed lots of nurses, like nurses, because a nurse in a hospital, she had a scope of practice to do a certain level of care, and so we would take them on what we call now an interfacility transfer to Saskatoon. But good gosh, way back then it was pretty rudimentary. I remember my very first call. I'm sure lots of people remember kind of those first, and I'll be honest and say I got sick on my very first call on orientation. And
because you guys were driving so fast,
no,
or
no,
because
no,
you were
no,
just
no,
so
because of
nervous?
the nature of the incident. I actually, without divulging a whole lot of details, attended a murder here in the city, and the circumstances were quite horrific. And of course, being a young guy and having way less gray hair than I have now, it just was an eye opener. You never see these things. You hear about them on TV and stuff like that. I grew up in the days of Johnny and Roy and Emergency and things like that. And so after having coffee, Barry says, "Well, come, you can just work part-time, just evenings." Well, like, I'm working full-time during the day, I said. I've got a full-time job. I really, this isn't what I planned to be. This is by no means my career path. It has been now, and very happy and quite happy with it. But yeah, lo and behold, and that led to one thing, and part-time led to, well, maybe I should go to school, and that led to school in the States, and one thing led to another, and here 34 years later, I'm part of our administrative team at Parkland Ambulance. Very pleased and honored to have had lots of experiences in my career. Blessed with the opportunities that I can do each and every day. I don't just still do calls, as we call them, an ambulance call or an incident. In our language is still referred to as a call. Still do those, sometimes very many. For example, we have some really busy days. And blessed with experiences that I've had, and just, happy each and every day.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about this at the beginning. You guys, how did the calls come in when you first started as a paramedic?
Calls would be quite fun. So first of all, now most people take for granted they dial 911. They speak to somebody in our public safety communications center, which is out at the satellite station. And then after determining what's needed, your call comes over to one of three medical communication and coordination centers here in Prince Albert. So there's one in Prince Albert, one in Saskatoon, and one in Regina. Those are the fine folks who behind the scenes answer, probably on average, in our communication center, they can do on a really busy day 100 calls in a day, because we're a wide area dispatch center. Doesn't mean our paramedics are doing, because you have to remember that we handle medical communications and coordination right in the city of Prince Albert, but out in Spiritwood, Big River, Melfort, Tisdale, Hudson Bay, Pelican Narrows, La Ronge, all of the park area up in Canada. So we've got, everything Prince Albert northward comes into here. So we've got a busy communication center, but we used to answer our own calls long before. Now, I can't do what our communication team does now. Like, they've got computer screens. I'm sitting in front of one and a laptop, and maybe you the same, Elise, and we're chatting away here, but our communication team are sitting in front of 6 screens of information that's flying at them. And again, it's not just in Prince Albert, because our crews answer and respond to, on average, about 20 calls in 12 hours. That's about the average. We sometimes do a little bit more. For example, this week we're up to like 30, 35 calls in 12 hours. That's pretty busy for us. If I put that in per capita, Elise, our paramedics do as much of a call volume as a paramedic does in downtown Toronto. And that's all relative in scale. All right. So a paramedic in Toronto, serving a city of 3.5 million people in the GTA and the Greater Toronto area. And our paramedics are doing the same call volumes per crew, just different economies of scale. Prince Albert, the city's about 35, 40,000 people. A serving area for us would be about 130,000 people, if my memory's right. But our furthest out point, Elise, will be 2 hours. So we can be gone 2 hours. That's on a good day. You add winter, you add snow and all that wonderful stuff, it takes us a lot longer. Unfortunately, we've got first responders and lots of people. But let's get back to the question, because I'm off on a tangent again. Exactly. So initially, when I first started, we answered our own calls. So we would have an outside bell, so you could be outside, sweeping the sidewalk or doing something. The phone would ring, you'd come running to the floor, into there, and you'd say Parkland Ambulance, and you'd take the emergency call down, and off you'd go. And we'd transfer our radios and phones to what we called then remote, which was an answering service, just because somebody has to answer the thing. You can't answer and drive, though in some cases, in some places in Saskatchewan, that was done. And so the funny part would be, you'd answer the call and you'd get to a house, and sometimes people, for whatever the reason is, you're greeted by someone at the door, and they're fairly sociable because it's not really a serious call, but they'd kind of look at you rather strange, and they'd say, "Didn't I just talk to you on the phone?" And you would in fact have literally talked to me on the phone. But our phone number back then was 764-6455. For those of you that remember phone numbers, that's one digit off of Venice House, which is 764-6555. So in the days of rotary dial phones, you can imagine that the slip of a finger, you'd end up ringing our place, and it would say Parkland Ambulance, and the voice probably might say, "Oh, I'm sorry, wrong number, click." And finally, I remember a call, and I know I shared this with you a little bit, but your audience certainly didn't hear. I remember answering this call, and finally, after about 4 or 5 times, this lady was getting so frustrated because she was trying to order a pizza. We just politely took her order, phoned down to Venice House, sent them her pizza up, those sorts of things. Because what else are you going to do? She just keeps phoning over and over again to the same number. But there's all kinds of these things. I mean, I remember in my career delivering a baby, and I've delivered a few of them. I don't know off the top of my head, maybe half dozen, 8. But I remember one, because those of you who were born on the farm would know that in the days when somebody was sick, you either A, dealt with it at home as best you could, or B, you called the doctor. And the doctor often was miles away, and he or she would make her way over to the farm and do what they could. I remember being at home, and it was a delivery was imminent, and the mom who was delivering and I were in the bedroom getting all set up, doing our thing. And all of a sudden, this lady comes in and she says, "It's for you." And in a perplexed, like, for me, and she's handing a phone. So here I am like this, holding a phone, and I'm ready to deliver a baby, and on comes Dr. Dale Ardell. And Dale says, "Hey, hi Lyle, how's it going?" And I'm kind of just like, I don't want to be rude or ignorant, but Dale, I'm kind of like really busy. He says, "Yeah, that's my patient. Do you need a hand?" And I said, no, everything's good. And I'm telling the lady, like, push, everything's okay. And we're doing the coaching thing. And all of a sudden we deliver a baby, and Dale says, "Okay, I think I'll leave you be." And so if you think about it, this girl's mom was of the era that when something like that happened, she did. So she automatically went into the kitchen, dialed the doctor, called the doctor, and off the doctor was supposed to come and do the thing, because how could some paramedic know what to do in this type of an emergency? So these things we've had, we have in our world, Elise, as you can appreciate, and I'm sure your viewers can as well. We see the worst in people, I mean, I've definitely seen some horrific tragedies in our lives, but certainly also some really great things. You know, people often think, how could it be a paramedic? I mean, we're here to help people. That's what we do best.
Yep.
We're here to make a difference when you're having a really bad day. But, you know, often our days aren't that bad. You know, we don't see, pardon the language, blood and guts all the time. I mean, we do see a lot of people that are moving from Prince Albert Hospital to Saskatoon for diagnostics, and just because of their conditions and their medical needs, require an ambulance to do so. And so it's often a chance for us to visit with people. I mean, sometimes we see people who have a medical need, but they're, you know, they're quite comfortable. And, you know, what am I going to do? Just sort of sit there and look at them for, you know, 10 minutes or an hour? You got to make some conversation. So you get to know people and you hear people.
Right. I think I told you too, when we were getting ready for this, I had the privilege of doing a ride along with Parkland Ambulance, because if you can imagine, I thought I wanted to be a dispatcher.
Hey, there's still room. I told you this already. We're still happy to have you come on board. You know, if you don't like the gig at the chamber.
I know, but they've like a set of questions that you're allowed to ask. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if I can do that, because as we know, I may like to talk a little bit. But when I got to do the ride along, there were a couple of things that surprised me. So for those who haven't had the privilege of doing a ride along, I come in and I get introduced to the crew, and they said, by the way, when the bell goes off, you have 45 seconds to get from wherever you are in the building into the ambulance, and or else we'll leave you behind.
Leave you behind, absolutely, yep.
So 12-hour shift. I don't know if I went to the bathroom once, because I was so scared of being left behind, because I was like, I'm here to experience. I want to know if this is the career I want to go into. I never got left behind.
Well, that's good. At least they were that courteous. Did they at least let you stop somewhere, like, you know, at a Starbucks or a Tim Hortons or something like that for a coffee?
I believe I bought the crew. Yes, they took. We had the privilege of doing a drive-through.
That's even better yet when you send over treats. There's nothing our teams love more than treats.
So 45 seconds is what you get to respond. How long generally?
So does it take? Yeah, so let me give your viewers a little bit of anatomy of a call. So as I said earlier, when you call 911, your call is answered outside of the city of Saskatoon. Now, Saskatoon does their own 911, but anywhere else in the province, it will come here to Prince Albert to the public safety answering point at the satellite station where provincial 911 is. They will ask
I don't know if anyone's gone out there, but drive out there and you kind of feel like you're driving into a sci-fi situation. It's like there's these hubs and bubbles and no trees and everything's been trimmed down. It's an interesting place to
just
visit.
On the other side of the satellite station, for those of us that remember the Crutwell fire, is the huge fire break that was put in during the Crutwell fire to actually stop the fire. Otherwise, it would have obliterated the satellite station and just kept right on going. So that's why it's kind of looks so eerie and spooky, because you don't have to go that far. We're talking, you know, a few hundred yards maybe of bush separates the fire break. But anyhow, so your call goes to the Prince Albert Public Safety Answering Point. They'll determine what you need, and they'll just push a button which sends it to one of the medical communication centers. And so when it arrives in our center, our staff have tried to have about a 40-second window to interrogate you, only to ask where you are. We want to get help started, because if anybody's ever called emergency services, they start asking you questions like, where are you? What's wrong? Is the person breathing? Do they have this? Blah, blah, and on and on and on. And now with COVID, a whole bunch more COVID screening questions that go on as well. And so when they do all of this, people think, well, all I want is an ambulance and I want help now. I'm getting delayed. And you're not. We work in tandem. We have lots of staff. It all pops up on the screens. It's highly sophisticated in there, in our communication center, where they will then, somebody sees the address comes up, pushes another alert button, and the crews get alerted to the call. Now, from the time the alert button till the time they book onto the air in the ambulance, they've got a shoot time of about 40-45 seconds. The average response time for a hot call, that means red lights and sirens within the city of Prince Albert, is about 4.5 minutes. Depends which area, depends on traffic, weather, and a whole bunch of other factors. But that's about the average time. Then, of course, our crews will do what they need to do to stabilize, treat, move, and then it's off to the hospital. And then they might repeat or head out to Muscadet or up to Montreal Lake or in the summertime to Waskesiu or gosh knows where the emergency will be that day that will take them. And sometimes they just, shall we say, pack a lunch and off they go. I mean, if it can very well be. I mean, Elise, if you were around our office on this past Tuesday, we did 35 calls in 12 hours. That includes putting me onto an ambulance for a little bit of time to support the rest of the team as well. And so it can be a very busy place. And when you start to understand that it's not just an emergency in Prince Albert, it could be an emergency. Like for example, we moved some folks today out to North Battleford for respite. We moved another person into the hospital in Melfort for some diagnostics and back home again. We took someone who needed more advanced care today alone into Saskatoon and brought a patient home who's ready to come home. So there's this constant in healthcare, what we call shuffle. And I don't say that disrespectfully, but it's trying to get people back to their home communities, regardless of age, but medical condition, where they can. And COVID is, of course, means that as soon as we can get you to a higher level care, and the sooner that those busy hospitals in Saskatoon and Regina can get you back to your home community, the sooner they're going to send you back. And you'd rather be at home too, especially if you've got family and that sort of stuff. And, with visitor restrictions and all those sorts of things, it's nice to do that. So there's lots of dynamics going on in our service every day. And we're not just an emergency ambulance service. Sheldon's going to come on in a few minutes and talk about our community paramedics, which is huge for our city and our organization. We started a pilot project for the next year with the Prince Albert Police Service and the Saskatchewan Health Authority. We've got what we call a cell medic in the Prince Albert Police Service's detention every night of the week from 7:30 in the evening till 7:30 the following morning, handling the folks that have addictions issues, and of course, being there to support the medical needs of those folks in detention. And it's about delivering the right care at the right time. Because prior to May the 1st, when we started it, to the Prince Albert Police Service, if they had somebody in medical need or medical distress, they would be like you or I, Elise, dialing 911. They do it a little fancier, of course, but they're still waiting, just like anybody else, for help to arrive at their doorstep and doing what they can till help gets there. Now they have a paramedic in cells. People coming in get all assessed. They get cared for. That's going to be a huge help. First, to the police service. Secondly, to those people who are suffering from an addictions issue, being able to support them while they're in detention, and supporting all those who have other medical needs, and just maybe something we can do now rather than sending them off to a hospital in a busy emergency room, and then, for whatever reasons, tying up an officer if they have to be kept there and brought back, and all the logistics of custody that they have. So those are some of the huge things, but people often know, and I mean, COVID has certainly curtailed our role, but we do have a huge community presence in this city, everything from Meals on Wheels to virtual daycare, babysitters, school tours. I just booked 3 of them for next week from our schools, standbys with the Raiders and other public events. So you'll see our paramedics out and about. We, just like everybody else, want COVID to end so we can get out there and meet everyone again. But huge, because our organization is going to celebrate already 47 years of service to Prince Albert and area. And for the Duchek family, it's a huge accomplishment from where they came from when Barry and his brother Wayne started. And it was just them, and they were the bookkeeper, the car washer, the ambulance attendants, the
pizza deliverer,
anything that you wanted done, they were it. To now we're over 75 men and women. We're a young staff, and they keep old guys like me in check and do that. And it's great to have those opportunities for us to do that. So we're just excited to be part of the organization.
So quick question before we put Sheldon in here.
Yep.
And according to me, I still got 3 minutes to chat with you.
Yeah, you still do. And I can make that into 5.
you said when you started that it was, you went down to the States, you got your paramedic. It took very short time to get your training. How long does it now take for somebody to become a paramedic?
So Sheldon and I are actually classmates from our original paramedic class. That dates him as well. He's got less hair, not as gray as mine. But from the time we want a paramedic out on the street, as we refer to it, we're looking at 41 weeks from the time they enter a course at SAS Polytech till they're through clinicals and ready to be hired. 41 weeks. So that's a long time. And COVID has set us back too, Elise. I mean, as people can appreciate, closures of schools, technical schools, and those sorts of things, and clinicals being restricted have put a bit of a strain on everyone in this province, but we're starting to see the students back and happy to have them. And yeah, it takes a long time. They're not just, I mean, Sheldon and I went for a regular school term, so about 8-9 months of training, and that included our clinical time as well, because there was no paramedic program back then in Saskatchewan for what we needed. But now they're very sophisticated. Technology, as people can appreciate, plays a huge role, as does care and treatment. We're the only thing that we can't do in an ambulance is put in sutures. We don't do stitches yet. We don't do analyze your lab, so we don't have those sophisticated things, and we don't do x-rays. But basically any other frontline treatment that you're going to expect to receive in a hospital emergency room, you're going to get right in your living room, on the side of the road, at the cottage, at the lake, wherever you happen to need us. And know that when you need us, we'll work with all of our other partners to get you safely to the definitive care that is most appropriate for you, because we work with a lot of other agencies and partners throughout this province and throughout our area, and certainly couldn't do it without people like our first responders. So people in the Canada Lake or Christopher Lake or Shelbrook area, sometimes we'll see someone show up at their emergency scene, connected maybe with their rural fire department or some other way, that is there to start the care, use an AED.
I know when we did the ride along, we had a situation that happened out at Waskasiu. And when we showed up, the first responders, all volunteers, had it completely under control. And I got to walk in the background of it because I wasn't there to do anything other than learn. And it was just a very neat, calm handoff. This is how it was. This is what we've done. And here you go. And the paramedics I was with that day said, okay, they finished up their questions. We loaded up the individual and came here to Prince Albert, and I was like, wow, that is smooth.
We couldn't do what we do out in the rural area without the support that we get from our first responders, and I'm sure that the rural communities truly appreciate them more than maybe they sort of let on, because they are vital to the community's success. When we can't have, you can't have an ambulance everywhere. You can't have a hospital everywhere. So that's the system of design that we have now, and the necessity that those people create. It's usually successful, and we're so appreciative of them and all of our healthcare partners along the line that we work with.
Awesome.
So I'm going to just. I'm going to step away for just a few minutes, just only to give myself a bit of a rest, but also only to share another part. And I brought along. I want to introduce Sheldon Hirschfeld. Sheldon's not only is Sheldon one of our advanced care paramedics, but Sheldon is in a unique role as the lead for our community paramedic program. And so Sheldon's going to share a little bit, Elise, about what that program is and some of the successes, because it's truly amazing what this program means to the community and the people we serve, and how it's making a huge difference for their care at home. And then I'll pop back on in about 15 minutes or so. Maybe we've got a few questions that have popped in, and just sort of wrap up, and we'll call it a night. So I'm going to just disappear for a little bit in the virtual world, and I'll be back.
All right, we'll see you in a minute. Hey, Sheldon, welcome. How are you?
Very well, Elise. How about yourself?
Oh, no complaints. Living and learning as we do this, and
fantastic.
Having a little bit of fun.
Oh, that's good.
Lyle just said you're Sheldon. I know you went to school together. You want to do a little more of a introduction of your role?
My name is Sheldon Hirschfeld. I'm one of the advanced care paramedics, as Lyle shared, and we did go to school together many years ago. It seems like almost another lifetime away in some ways. I've had the incredible privilege of 3 years ago, we started with a pilot project with the community-based paramedicine and being the team lead with that. And now it's evolved into something that is very exciting, I think, for folks, for it is for me, in that it's a different role, in that it's not the emergent situations, but we deal with folks that aren't in an emergent situation. And we work, the way the program functions is we function with the personal care homes and long-term care facilities in the city. So we're kind of their ambulance on call or doctor on call. We work very closely with the family physicians. So for example, there's a patient that we dealt with. This individual wound up having a urinary tract infection, which isn't an uncommon thing amongst older folks. And through consultation with we went to assess the patient. We were able to start them on, get the physician started them on oral antibiotics, as we contact the physician anytime we assess a patient. And then ultimately, unfortunately, the oral antibiotics didn't quite cut it. So in the past, that would have meant now a trip to the hospital and probably admission for several days. Whereas now what we did for this individual was we went ahead and started the intravenous, gave the IV antibiotics for a course of 5 days. The individual never left the comfort of their own suite in the care home and was so thankful because they didn't have to go anyplace. And they were actually able, this is pre-COVID, she was able to visit with family that was visiting from out of country. Otherwise, she would have been in hospital and may not have had that chance to visit with. Some other things that we do is work, as I said earlier, with the physicians very closely in that, especially now in these COVID times, if they have shut-ins or someone that doesn't have the capability of getting out and about, the physicians have referred us to go in and assess the patient and then do a 3-way call with the physician and the patient, and then do any lab work, ECGs, anything that needs to kind of facilitate that process. So our goal is a little different than what Lyle's is, in that our goal is to try to keep people out of the ER. And keep them at home as long as we can possible. Some other unique things we've done is, for example, we've done iron infusions, which is someone that has a low blood count that needs that picked up. The doctor may order that. And if they're too ill to get out, we've gone into the care homes and provided that service for them. So
do you find, does the community ever comment back? I know we did a curbside conversation with, I believe, Jordan. Yeah, it was Jordan at the beginning of COVID talking about the program, which, wow, that's just about a year and a half ago that we did that discussion. Do you find that people feel more peaceful as a result of, not having to go to the hospital, but knowing that you're able to come in and talk to the doctor? Is it being well received, the community program within Prince Albert and our area?
Yes, absolutely. It's been almost overwhelming for myself. I've had the privilege of working in EMS for 35 years now. The majority of that was on the street side, as what Lyle probably shared a little bit about. And so often there, we didn't get much feedback as to what happened for the patient, nor did we. Sometimes we got called a lot of 4-letter names too. Whereas in the last 3 years now, that it'll be 3 years in June that we've had the program running, I haven't been called a 4-letter name.
You mean you haven't been told that you're fine and that they appreciate the work from?
So we've been, we've gotten wonderful thank you cards. We got an incredible note from one of the directors at Public Health, because one of our roles in the COVID situation is we provide in-home COVID swab testing for folks that can't get out. So say, for example, someone's wheelchair bound, can't get out to the test center. The test center will refer to us. Today we've only done a couple swabs, but there's been days where we've done upwards of 20 or 30 swabs in community for folks that just couldn't get there. So, and getting that feedback, Public Health has shared with us, like they said, they don't know how sometimes they've done it without us, like what they would have done in that capacity if that person can't get there but still needs that service.
So out of curiosity, and
Mhm.
sorry, we didn't really prep you for any of these questions.
No, that's okay.
but let's say somebody decides they want to become a paramedic, or,
Mhm.
they're like, this is where I want to work. It's fast paced, it's amazing, and it's wonderful.
Yep.
And then maybe they're like, I don't know. Do you have to go through the whole paramedic and work with the ambulance service before you get to go in and be part of the community partners program? Or can you go straight from taking the training to be a paramedic and straight over to the community partner program? Did that question make sense?
Yes, excellent question, Elise. The usual route for becoming in the community paramedic is you will have to take the primary care paramedic at minimum or advanced care paramedic. And then our licensing body recognizes it as an endorsement. So I went back to school for just about another additional year because we focus on different types of medicine. And what I mean by that, more long-term planning.
Yeah.
So in the emergency situation, we get a call, somebody's got a headache, they got high blood pressure. I deal with that. I take them the 10-minute ride or whatever to the hospital, and now they're the hospital's problem. Now we take that same situation where they maybe have a headache, but the blood pressure is up a bit, but it's not to its like life-threatening or potentially life-threatening. We reach out to the family doctor, and now we work with, do we adjust medications and things like that? So we need to understand the background information of that in order to assist the physicians in a meaningful way, I think.
So how does somebody get a hold of the community partner program? Is it at a normal 911 call, or is there another area that call, or how does that determine who should be responding or coming out to a situation?
Okay. Excellent question, Elise. The way it functions right now, we work with the personal care homes and the physician groups only. So Elise couldn't pick up the phone and say, I want Sheldon as a community paramedic, or the call comes into 911 and it's determined that it's a community paramedic versus an ambulance response. So it doesn't function in that aspect. As I said, for us here in the city of Prince Albert, we work with the personal care homes and long-term care facilities. And then as well, we have physician referrals. And the physician referrals can be everything from just go to do an assessment to can you just go do some blood work? So, but the physicians access us, as do the care homes.
So I know this was a pilot project. How was it determined that this was the next care or the next step that Parkland wanted to extend itself to? Do you know?
This is one of the things we've been wanting to venture into for a few years. And it's been identified not only just in Saskatchewan or in Prince Albert, globally, that there's another means or skill set that we can use for paramedics that may help prevent emergency room visits. For example, if we look at across the pond in Great Britain, they have their system is quite advanced in that they have community-based paramedics that will initially respond with the ambulance, and then they determine what's the best course. Do we need to go to an emergent care center? Do we need to go to an urgent care center where a community paramedic would manage you for a few hours and then you go on your merry way? Or do we just manage you there and then that's it? You don't go anyplace. So it looks quite interesting globally. So it is, for example, in Great Britain as well, the community paramedics can write simple prescriptions. For example, someone has a bladder infection, they can write them that prescription for Macrobid. They don't even talk to the doctor. So it functions in that aspect similar to a nurse practitioner does in our province.
Gotcha. So are there other communities here within the province that are taking on this project and adopting it in Saskatoon, Regina, Moose Jaw?
Saskatoon, Regina, Moose Jaw, Frontier. It's now actually a system that's available across the province with the whole COVID situation and whatnot. So say, for example, someone that lives in, we'll say, Buffalo Narrows, the doctor needs something to be done for the patient that doesn't necessarily need them to be in the hospital or whatever for. They can reach out to the local EMS service and then they can accommodate it in their world, if you will. And what I mean by their world is in Buffalo Narrows. Here for us right now, we don't function in that capacity. We just function with the care homes and long-term care and with the physicians, as I said. But
it's pretty cool what we can determine or take a look at what's happening in other communities and other countries and go like that, pull it over and use it here. It's I think it's a sign of how our world is working better together in some areas, or learning from each other.
Yes. And what I've really appreciated about this position is the feedback and the sense of satisfaction that we see people that are fairly ill, and then we intervene, and then we're part of that care plan maybe for several days.
Yeah. And
just to see the change in them and whatnot. We have so many of our patients that we deal with that we get Christmas cards from now. There's one individual that's baked for us the other day. We went and simply set them up on we do a pilot project called home health monitoring. And this individual felt it necessary to send us some butter tarts back after we went and just set up the tablet and visited with them. So,
and I'm sure nobody touched the butter tarts.
No. Lyle didn't have any at all.
Well, he isn't here to defend himself, so we get to talk about it.
Yeah, so it's a little bit slower pace than working on the street side. It is the other aspect that I like about it is I'm a bit of a people person. I like to chat with people, get to know them. So I know a lot of our folks in the care homes by first name basis. They know me, and it's really neat when you walk in and you feel like Norm from Cheers, and everybody goes, Sheldon.
Well, it was actually one of my questions. I'm like, I know that when I did the ride along, I did a day shift and then I did a night shift. And the day shift was telling me that good or bad, no matter where you are as a paramedic, you have regulars. You kind of get to know the people in your area, especially when you've been doing it for a while. And so they had some concerns the day that I was driving. They're like, we haven't heard from this person in quite some time. And I just wonder how things are going. And I was like, well, I would have never, ever thought of that.
Yeah.
And so my question is, do you have regulars within that community program? But you kind of just answered that as you're part of Cheers, Sheldon.
Yeah. And one of the things that is I find challenging myself with it is pre-COVID, we could go and visit the care home. So we regularly went out and we do things like Lyle has a picture of me singing Christmas carols at one of the care homes, someplace stashed away in the archives. And that was part of it was, like I said, that ability to go in and visit the care homes and just get to know the residents as well. And in doing so, I think that it makes them more comfortable with us because there's something so different.
Okay, well, you and Lyle can't laugh. Again, back to the ride along. We picked up an elderly lady and she gets in and she's like, I think I have white coat syndrome. And I'm like, syndrome. So I won't lie. I went home and looked it up to be told by a friend of mine who's a nurse. She's like, no, that just means that people fear the doctor. So as a result, their blood pressure rises, everything goes up. And I'm sitting there. And yes, I will admit that was slightly ignorant on my behalf, but I was like, never really heard about that one before. But I guess it totally makes sense. So.
Well, I mean, Elisa's and to your viewers tonight, as Sheldon said in our community paramedics, they're there about caring for people in their own environments, in their homes, and making that difference and that connection. For an emergency paramedic such as myself, and I mean, I can flip myself into any of these roles quite easily. I just don't do them very well. But as an emergency paramedic, we see people for that short little window of maybe 10 minutes at your house and a 10-minute trip from the house to the hospital, maybe a span of about 45 minutes if it's a little bit longer. That's it. And we wish you the best and we hope for the best for you. But at the end of the day, we really don't know unless you bump into us on the street or anything like that. And I might embarrass Sheldon a little bit with this tale. I just happened to be in Sport Check on the weekend, and some guy holding up a shirt and he's trying it on, and he turns around, he looks at me and he says, "Are you Lyle?" And I said, "Yes." And he says, "Do you know Sheldon?" I says, "You mean one of our paramedics named Sheldon?" And he says, "Yeah." He says, "Well, tell him I said hello 22 years ago, Sheldon transported me, and this man went on to tell me about the incident that he had and how he was suffering a heart attack. And there was one of our paramedics. And so I got stopped last fall in one of the local stores. I was looking for a card, and same thing. Some guy comes up and he starts telling me all about this, and he's telling me about how he suffered from this traumatic injury and that traumatic injury. And I'm thinking, wow, you sound really badly, like you were in rough shape, buddy. And he went on to say, again, thank you. So often our street paramedics don't have the connections that our community paramedics do to see them. And so if Sheldon sees somebody today and needs to do follow up, it's kind of like they get some really personal visits in to, how's Mrs. Smith doing today? And, those sorts of checks in. So I think our community paramedic program is making and will continue to make a world of difference with our partnership with the Saskatchewan Health Authority in that respect. Our community paramedics are also supporting some really exciting things that are a result of COVID.
Yeah.
So they've been doing lots of work with that. And I think that, once we start to turn the corner of COVID, and I'm fingers crossed, just like everybody else, that'll be soon. We'll start to see some different advancements in our community paramedic program as well. The future is bright. We're not just an ambulance service, Elise, that's known for transporting people that are sick and injured, because that's what we do best. Our motto as an agency is we care for you. And that's truly what we eat, breathe, and sleep each and every day for the men and women that work for us. But wherever we are, from our telecommunications center to our street paramedics, to our community paramedics, to our cell medics, to folks on a standby, the world of difference that we can make for you. And we're so pleased and honored to be part of your day each and every day that we can be, in so many different ways.
Well, we just had a thanks come in, and this
thank
is
you.
this is from Janet with CTV, and she just wanted to thank you, Lyle. You saved her mom in 1991. She was having a heart attack, so just wanted to say thank you to you as a paramedic, and leave it to technology, which I think might lead into something. I normally have got the comments that I can see here on the right, but for whatever, the comments aren't reading in. So I'm going to just search over to the second screen over here. Can I now be part of the dispatch if I'm in front of
well, there's a little bit of more fine tuning, but it's hopeful, Elise. There's hope.
Oh.
if they let me in the door, all I could do is answer the phone. The sad part is, you think you would get stuck on the phone? Can you imagine me just visiting with someone?
Yeah. Oh, hold on. I've been through all those dispatch courses, fire and all the rest. There is a strict protocol.
Hey,
what is your name? Where are you calling from? Are they breathing? I don't know.
And so when I do community work, I remember doing McHappy Day one time with the Malfonts up at the 2nd Avenue location, and Jan coming up to me, tapping me on the shoulder, and she points up to this clock and she says, for every minute you've been in the drive-through, my numbers are looking terrible. She says, less talk, more customers through the door, she says. She says, it's a drive-through. She says, if you want to go visit, I'll give you a coffee pot, go up front, she says. So needless to say, I didn't. And then I remember doing, we love these community events. I remember going over at Tim Hortons to help Ed Zapraniak, and I always asked to do something different every time. And one time they made the mistake of letting me make sandwiches. Okay. So Tell
me you didn't have to call the paramedics or 911.
No. But there are strict rules to making a sandwich. You have portions of whatever, you have, 2 slices of tomato or this amount of ham or whatever, right? So Lyle decided that he would put, an extra slice of ham or an extra slice of tomato. And Ed came by and said, no, don't do that. Funny thing is, I went into the store about 3 days later, and Ed says, now you really did it. He says, some guy who comes here every day for the same sandwich wondered why his sandwich yesterday was thinner than the one he got 2 days ago. I said, sorry.
Well, everybody's always watching that bottom dollar. So
I know it is, but you got to have a little fun of these things. You got to draw happy faces. Like, hey, come on, give the guy an extra slice of cheese.
So when we were chatting, you were talking about a new program that was coming in. Are we allowed to talk about that? The three-word program?
What 3 words? Absolutely. We can start talking about what 3 words. So I don't know if Sheldon's going to stick around. I don't want to be rude, but if he wants to stick around, he's welcome to stay. I don't know what his workload's like because he's still on for tonight. If he wants to stay, he's more than welcome. It's totally up to him.
Lyle said you're welcome to stay.
He can chit chat too. You get 2 of us chatting and it'll be just a mess right away.
What I'll do, Elise, is thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share about the community paramedic program. I should go help my partner take care of duties. I have my vehicle to clean up and tidy up before the end of the shift. So I'd like to say thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'll see Lyle tomorrow morning.
Thank you for being a part of here. And I did note that as well when I did the drive along. If you are bored, you clean a vehicle. I'm like, ooh. Yeah. My father would love this.
There's a big fleet that requires a lot of maintenance, a lot of upkeep. So it's not we're not a small business that we once started with. We're still very family orientated. Don't get us wrong, but it's a big business.
Yeah. All right, let's chat about that exciting.
Okay, we're gonna say
take care. Have a good night. See ya. Bye.
Let's talk about that.
So we're going to talk more, and so folks will hear this a little bit more in the media, but we want to really start to talk about something which is called What 3 Words. So What 3 Words is available right now. You can go down and go to the Apple Play Store. I combined Apple and Google together in the Apple Play Store. That tells you how technologically savvy I may or may not be. You can go to
don't mix the wrong bloods.
Exactly. You got to use the purple box for these types of emergencies and the beige box for those, and don't give them the wrong drug. Don't mix up dimenhydrinate with diphenhydrinate. 2 different drugs.
Okay, I think I'm supposed to bring you back now. Come on back.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Anyhow, so there's something called What 3 Words. You can download the app. And so What 3 Words actually works on your cell phone. And what you can do with it, so let's say you are out at the lake, out for a walk with the family, and somebody trips, slips, sprains their ankle. No way you can get them back to where you need help. All right. So you can take your phone, use the What 3 apps on your phone, and the app will give you 3 words. It might say pineapple, wolf, house. 3 meaningless words that have no association whatsoever, but that will triangulate to within 3 square meters of where you are. And so you will then phone emergency services and say, using the What 3 Words app, my What 3 Words are pineapple, wolf, house. And we can put that into an app at our end, know exactly where you are, take that app into a phone for our crews or into their terminals, and follow that right to where you are. This has been used already in our area. We're going to talk a little bit more about. We've got a big media release and announcement coming up in the coming week about it. And it's being used all over, especially for people that are not only just backcountry users, so out for a hike, ski, for a walk, those sorts of things, but people who are not familiar with our area. Maybe you live in Saskatoon and you come up to the cottage, and we were chatting about this during the evening. You know, most of us, have you ever tried to get out into our lake country, and the roads are marked, but there's so many twists and turns and little roads. The locals know how to get around, but you ask a visitor to try and do that, often very, very difficult. We often say that even in an emergency, Elise, if I gave you a phone book, again, dating myself, a phone book, and asked you to find your own name in a phone book when you were having an emergency, you wouldn't. You're just too focused on the emergency to know that. So this app is going to be a huge life-saving tool. Even folks that are, for example, out in the rural areas where you live, on the farm, something like that. This does not prevent you from using emergency services in the traditional fashion, like dialing 911. We want to emphasize that clearly to folks. Use 911, use the emergency numbers that you already know and use, but this is another tool in that toolbox to get people to know where you are with reasonable accuracy and free. Go download the app. Like I say, we're going to do a big announcement on it, so watch our social media channels and certainly the local media to do that as we talk about What 3 Words.
Sweet. Okay, so I'm looking at the clock and trying to keep you here at right around an hour.
Yep.
We've come to the best part. I mean, visiting with you was great.
The best
all
part.
the times I've got to do it.
The best prize. I want a prize.
Well, sure. I have to think about what that prize is going to be, but absolutely you won a prize. You got
Well,
to share with
I
me.
had a chance while you were talking to Sheldon to get my tea. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these teacups that's got a built-in strainer. Have you seen that before?
No.
You put loose tea in it and it's got a built-in strainer, and they come right or left-handed. So I'm a right-handed guy, so the strainer, obviously, because if it was left-handed, you just drink all the tea stuff at the same time and not strain.
Oh, like the strainer comes right-handed or left-handed?
No, the strainer's in top, so I have a right-handed tea mug, and so the
Yeah.
strainer is to my mouth, obviously. I don't know if you can see that on the camera if I stop
It
my
kind of
virtual.
keeps, well, your hand is crystal clear, but the
There
cup
you
is
go.
a little
There you
tiny.
go.
Oh,
See
oh.
how the strainer is on
Huh.
one side there?
And here,
So
everybody listening in thought they were going to just learn about being a paramedic. We now know
No,
about
we're doing tea, and I had this given to me yet. So anyhow, again,
All right,
another
ready?
squirrel rabbit hole.
Yeah. Here come the rapid fire questions. 7 of them in 10 seconds.
Okay,
Are you ready? Your favorite color?
blue.
Your favorite appreciation gift, as in when you guys do a great and amazing job and somebody
Food.
drops off
Food.
just food in general, or are
Oh,
you
food in
asking
general.
anything?
You could put a $20 bill on a table and a pizza, and they'll eat the pizza and take the $20 and go buy more pizza. I
Okay.
mean,
I'm just making sure the public knows what to deliver.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Food. Anything.
Okay.
Home
Best
baked,
place-
especially.
Say what?
Home baked. Oh, bread.
Of course, during
tarts.
COVID, it must be individually
Yeah, it's
packaged.
got to be
and-
into it. Yeah, there's rules of that, of course. Yeah, absolutely. But we're happy to still take it.
So, what is the best meal you've ever had delivered? Or we don't want to talk
Oh
about
my
that.
God, we used to have a sweet lady who ran some of I don't know who's listening to us tonight, but they might recognize the name of Molly Anderson. Molly used to run a care home in the 400 block of 6th Street East. Molly has sadly long passed. But Molly used to cook for our crews. Literally every holiday, she'd phone and our crews would come and get a turkey with all the fixings for Christmas or
Ooh.
some Easter for ham. I mean, honest to gosh, Elise, we would live for holidays to be treated like kings. God bless her
So-
soul. She's passed for many years now, but some of the best food that I remember. Yep.
So are we kind of issuing a challenge to somebody else in the community who may want to step
Oh.
up behind Molly?
You know, once COVID's passed, I mean, feel free to, we're happy to take anything. We could spend hours on food alone. So we're only on question 2, Elise, by the way.
All right.
Talk
next
about me
question.
being the squirrel. Look who's being the squirrel.
You know what I heard? If you don't ask, nobody will give you what you want. So you just have
That's
to
right.
ask.
Ask and you shall receive. So it's Lotto Max time. It's Lotto Max time. So I hope that, lottery gods are good to me.
Well, you
Anyhow.
just kind of led into the question then. What would you do if you won?
Oh my gosh. I think for one thing, besides the usual of, buying something nice for myself and family, I have a huge volunteer profile. I've always been involved in the community. I think I'd like to make a lot of people happy.
We
I
like
know I
the
would.
sound of that.
Yep.
So,
You might be on the list.
I'll keep smiling. We're good to go
Exactly.
then. Best place to relax.
Home.
And when
Honestly-
COVID allows us,
Honestly,
the best.
home is probably the best place. I mean, I'm a really home person. I have such a huge public profile, and I have a lot of volunteer commitments provincially and nationally that when I have some downtime, it is at home and truly.
I like that. When COVID allows us to travel freely, where is the first place you're going to vacation to?
Kelowna. We love the West Coast. I've been in every province except Newfoundland and Labrador and in the territories. I think my favorite spot is the East Coast, ideally. Love Halifax. Been
It
to
is
Toronto.
beautiful.
Yeah, been to Toronto so many times. I already know where to eat and where not to eat. But I'd love to travel across our north. I've never been in the territories. I've never been in Whitehorse, the Yukon. Certainly never been in Nunavut. I think we have a huge, wonderful country to travel and see. Been to some great places in the U.S. as well. Yep.
So while you're doing all this traveling, what's going to be the best song you like to listen to or will be listening to?
I'm kind of a jazz aficionado. So, it doesn't really matter whether it's quiet jazz or whatever. So, if I can on, not listening to sort of news or something like that in the vehicle, it's usually on XM and we're listening to some kind of jazz or something like that. Yep.
So I got to
I'm
ask you.
I'm not a country fan, oddly enough. I
Yeah, but
don't
you know
like.
what they say. If you listen to those songs backwards, you get everything back. It's all good.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah. You know about your dog that's lost in your house that, exactly.
Yeah, so good there.
Yeah.
Curiosity question. Do you have a record player?
Yes, we do. My mom is a big record fan, and so we have a really old one downstairs in the basement, but we bought one for her as she resurrected a lot of her LPs. So.
We have to introduce you to one of our chamber members, the Funky Moose Records. Whatever you need, they have got, and they can ship it or deliver it. Maybe they can make the wrong phone number and you just come by with an ambulance.
There we go.
All right. Well, that is all that we've got for questions here tonight. And we just want to say thank you so much for being, you're actually our last one for this season. We will be coming back in September.
Go take a break. Good.
Yeah, we're gonna I won't say recoup, but just kind of see what we're allowed to do. We hope to get this back.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's hope we can all get back together. But thank you very much, Elise, and to your audience today for spending some time with us. We hope that it's been informative. Hope it's been a bit entertaining for them as well. If anyone has any questions, please, feel free to give us a call, shoot us an email, visit us on our website. Last plug, it's Paramedic Services Week, May 23rd to 29th. The theme this year being Citizen Ready. And so with COVID restrictions, our paramedics will be out there serving our community is what we knew best because we are in that great service industry. But thanks again, Elise. Pleasure chatting with you. We look forward to meeting you and your audience, maybe over some beverages in the coming months.
Hey, you know what we're going to do this year? I know where you can meet everybody. July 26th. Here comes a plug for the chamber. Okay. July the 26th. We're doing our drive-through membership barbecue. My board last year said they all wanted to work McDonald's windows again, but not be timed. So we're going to be doing it out at the Art Hauser. And any of our members are more than welcome. We'll have it coming up in our calendar and have everybody kind of register so we know how much food to prepare. And
yeah, as long as you kind of keep me on track, because if it'll be like the Rotary Lobster Fest last weekend or this past weekend, we did the Rotary Lobster Fest. So I was in pickup. Thankfully, there was no one there. I spent 20 minutes in line because I was visiting. So I feel a bit.
I'm just shocked.
Yeah, the person, and I asked for my customer service survey because the maitre d' that came up didn't give me my 12 lobster that I wanted. Even though I hadn't ordered 12 lobster, I just thought I'd try and ask. But 20 minutes in line, thankfully there was no one behind me. But
was that Friday or so? I'm like, I was working Friday night doing that drive-through.
No, I was Saturday morning. I went Saturday morning, and the Rotarians.
That was the other part of the crew. We kept everybody on track.
Yeah, no, this crew must have had a lull in the action, and we're either looking for someone to visit with. Or just there was a lull in the action because 20 minutes of me parked there visiting with all the Rotary Rotarians, which I didn't win the 50-50, by the way, because the draw was last night. So
no.
Or was it last night or is it tonight?
I think it's tonight because you had until 11:59 last night to buy the tickets.
Oh, so I might still be 50-50 richer. I heard the pot was pretty good. I'm in on that.
26,000 when we sent out the last newsletter or the dedicated ad to tell everybody.
Oh, wow. So there's still hope for me yet. Wow. Absolutely.
Well, they just haven't been able to get a hold of you yet to tell you that.
Oh, that's probably it. That's probably the case. Absolutely. I'm just waiting for all the Rotarians to come and stand on my front lawn and sing or whatever Rotarians do. No, that's the kin guys that have the song. I don't think Rotarians have a song. They have a phrase.
Oh, yeah. We have a song.
Do you have a song?
Oh, yeah. Don't ask me to sing it. But
I didn't know you were a Rotarian.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, see, there's something else I learned tonight.
We're supposed to be ending this. So.
Yeah, we are. I actually have to get on a National Red Cross call that my team is actually waiting for me on. So not to be rude any other way, but I do have to get on to another call.
All right. Well, we will see you around at our next activities.
Absolutely.
And with everybody else, we look forward to seeing you at the golf or the barbecue. and
For
the
sure.
golf tournament coming this
Absolutely.
fall. So
It's been a blast, Elise, and I hope that the people listening had a chance to learn a little bit behind the scenes of Parkland Ambulance. And again, thank you very much for the opportunity this evening.
you're
Pleasure.
welcome. Anytime.
Take care. See you
Thanks.
soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.